Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome along to the Online Darts Live Lounge. Sorry we are a few minutes behind schedule, but it is Monday, so we will crack on with things. Me, Phill, Bars, Jack Garwood, Lee Boyce in the new Dart Stroke Football Entertainment Show on a Monday. Good evening, gents. How are we?
It's all right.
Are we talking football as well tonight?
No.
I mean, it's going to be very for me because my team are currently there. But yeah.
Convenient, your team are playing and you're late. Just convenient that it was the laptop, is it, though?
Phill bought the laptop.
Full of junk. Anyway, welcome along, chat room. Hope you are all in and all good. Chat room nice and busy. We've shared some links on social, so if you see them, make sure that you share them for us as well. But boys, quite a week this week, so we should get some high quality discussion in, and there are plenty of talking points, to be fair, off of the World Series. Few things that players have said, and then the whole debate of the World Series. Nico brought it up in his piece as well. Hopefully I'm going to try and grab an extension of that with him this week because he is at the live league as well. Again, chat room, get involved throughout the next few hours. It's going to be good. Kevin, how are we doing? James, Andrew, Lendl, welcome along. Matthew, James, of course. Philip is in. Craig, how are we doing? Loads of people in. It's good stuff. Bob, Owen, just screaming through. Tommy is in as well. But the World Series Down Under has kicked off from Townsville, the Queensland Darts Masters. New tournament, boys, but spoiler alert, same outcome as we've seen a very lot recently.
I'm not calling it a new tournament.
Why not?
We've been to Australia before. It's not new tournament to me. There's always two in Australia.
Yeah, but we've not been to there before, so it's new.
What are you classing as new, Dob?
Same thing.
New tournament, same outcome.
Nothing. The trophies were new, and then they handed out a completely different one.
He did do shots with them both, but I'm guessing that they wanted that one because it was bigger. Yes, James, there is a reason for that. This year, they went, instead of going to the big major cities, they've gone to the next category down that they know have got big darts communities in. And that's really shown because the ticket sales have been very, very good in Australia. This one coming up in Wollongong, they've sold over 5,000 tickets across the 2 days. God, I knew that was coming because your signal into me is horrific. You're not wired in at the moment, are you?
It's frozen, keeps jumping in and out from what I can see.
Yeah, his speed into me is horrific.
That's
Anyway, boys, we'll have a conversation until he sorts himself out. We'll have a conversation.
Yeah, from a viewer's perspective, obviously you've not been out there, but from a viewing perspective, I thought it came across very good. I thought it looked like it sold well, and I know it got mentioned on Tom's on the Friday that it sold well as well for next week. So it looks like generally it's a good decision to move to those new venues, if you can call them now. Yeah,
look, they're trying all regions of Australia, which is obviously great, and things like that. But yeah, it looked very, very good. Numbers seemed good. We've got a couple of crowd pictures as well, which we'll talk about, but we'll get we'll get some bits up first of all. Day one looked a little bit like this. Yeah, God, but your internet is horrific, mate. You might need to go and reset your router.
He's froze on mine.
Yeah, literally his speed coming into me is shocking.
There we go.
What it is, I bet he's trying to stream the Liverpool game at the same time because he won't purchase the official. He won't purchase the official package. I bet he's trying to stream both.
We done talked about that. It's like who was it? The seniors who mentioned the fire stick? Was it Taylor?
Yeah, Taylor. But yeah, this was day one. We'll come on to the TV coverage in a minute. Don't worry, everyone. It is on the list to talk about. But first of all, Dimitri Vandenberg in no real danger. But Joe Cullen looked an absolute $1 million, as he said in his post-match. His best ever TV average, and the rock star was rocking.
Yeah, well, Dimmy started us off with a wonderful 164 and nearly followed it with 140, and then obviously saw his way through that one. But then Joe just came on, and to me, the performance very much looked like the start of the Premier League night and both games really, and his final against MvG, and he just looked in total control. How we saw early on in that one is what we saw in this in a shorter format, and he looked very, very relaxed. And in putting a sensational performance. Obviously, the qualifiers have to perform to beat these, but let's be honest, on Friday, I think what day was that? On Friday, I think anyone who would have played Joe under that format wouldn't have got anywhere near to him because he was just so good. The story, when the story's on for Joe, it's just good to watch.
Yeah, completely. And then the shock of the first round. The ferret Johnny Clayton beaten 6-2 by Hopo Puhau. And look, although Hopo played well, and I'm not taking this away from him, Johnny Clayton missed an absolute truckload of doubles.
Yeah, very, very unlike Johnny. Hopo Puhau went 4-0 up, and it just seemed like there wasn't something right with Clayton. Me and Dob had a bit of a debate about Clayton's sort of year and how his performance has done. I think sometimes we sort of miss how well Clayton done in the Premier League current run, but actually since then we've just seen a drop from him. So I don't want to say it's a huge surprise, but probably the level of performance is more surprising for me than actually the result, because as we know with the field, it was a very, very fun field, probably other than the one we saw in Holland. There's not a better field that we'll probably see.
No, and look, Johnny actually scored really, really well, but he just couldn't hit a double for Toffee. It is the thing. He probably had darts in probably every leg of those 8 without looking at it to win the leg at some point.
It wasn't just the misses as well, mate. It was the distance of some of those misses, because some of them were quite a distance, whereas especially down the left-hand side of the board, when Clayton's got that 2 in hand, let's say, that 1, if it's not in, it's normally lined up pretty well to work off. But he didn't have that this time. Hopefully it's just a dip, because we've seen what he can perform over the past 18 months. So I don't want to be too harsh on Clayton, but there is going to be concerns about his form. Yeah,
no, completely. Evening, Kieran. Hope you are good. And then Gordon Mathers beating Fallon Sherrock 6-3. And look, Gordon Mathers played really well in this game. Fallon started too slowly. For me, after 3 or 4 legs, she actually played half decent. Not amazing, but competitive and had chances. But you can't give players the head start that she's giving them at the moment.
Yeah, it was the chasing that was the downfall, really, of Fallon. The start of it just put her in a very, very difficult position. We saw was it 160 out that she took? And then at that point, you probably thought, well, is this now a moment, a sort of a Dimmy moment, a Clemens moment, where we're going to see them push on? but you just never seem to be able to then follow that up with any consistent darts. As I said, it was disappointing, the performance that Fallon Dave and Mathers punished Fallon for that, but there's no doubt in my mind that she'll bounce back either this week or the following week, because we know what she can do on the World Series stage. We've seen that a few times, and we're going to see it a few more.
And then, again, an out of sorts James Wade. We'll come on to this as more of a talking point afterwards, but Simon Whitlock absolutely battered him.
Yeah, there's no other way to look at it.
You can't dress it up. It was an absolute drubbing.
It's a 6-2 that could have easily been better. The scoreline, if anything, there is harsh on Whitlock than it is on Wade, and that's someone who's won 6-2.
Yeah,
that just shows that level of performance. There was, again, don't want to take nothing away from Whitlock, but Wade just didn't look comfortable. Obviously, then there was a big threat out from the player who's on the wrong side of the result, but there was nothing really there from Wade, and he's another one that, as Dobb arrives, there's worries there for me around that Wade Dame at the moment. He's not fully recovered for me since that back end of the Prem onwards.
No, there are question marks. We'll come on to them more at the end when we wrap up. MvG, as in his own words, was shocking, but got away with it. But Bailey Marshall, there's a character there.
You back with us, Dob?
Yeah, and a dodgy haircut.
Yes, he's back.
Terrible trip. Steady dart player. Quietly impressive. It'll be interesting to see what he does in the World Youth.
Yeah, he certainly did enough to say that he can play. That's for sure. As Michael said in his post match, which was quite funny. Gerwin Price, Damon Heta was no question the game of the round, and there are just signs, Boise, that Gerwin Price is etching towards the form that catapulted him to the World Championship. There's just signs, and the figure point of this game for me is 3-figure finishing. In that run that he up into the World, it was unreal, and we're seeing signs that is coming back.
Yeah, I think we've seen signs, and obviously we'll allude to Michael Donnan and his success, that these two can actually at the moment make the step away from the rest of the field. As we've seen that Michael's back to winning ways, and we're seeing Price, he's getting very, very close to that. And there was no surprise that this was Dame of the Day. Majority of people would have probably picked it from the off as being that Dame of the Day. And it was good to see Damon Heta back to performing. We've seen a bit of a drop in form from Damon from how he started the year. So it was good to see Damon back and pushing it. But full credit to Desi and those big track outs that really, really won him this day.
Yeah, and then look, Michael Smith, an absolute demolition job in the final game. It was one-sided, to say the very least, and Bully Boy marched on. Moving on to the final day, we'll run through these, and then there's plenty of talking points. We've got a couple of clips as well. To be fair, the first game, Joe Cullen, Dimitri Van den Berghoff, was an absolute blinder of a game, both well over the 102 average mark, and just a damn good game of arrows.
Yeah, like I said, just back and forth, steady from both. I don't really know what else more to say on that one. I thought it was just a really good game of darts. It flowed nicely.
Yeah.
Flowed nicely, which is a surprise for a Dimmy game.
Yeah, but did you notice that the fact this was non-ranked, and we didn't see any of the shit? There, I said it. I don't care. It's only 20 past 8. We didn't see
Wait till
any
9
of,
o'clock for that.
but we didn't, did we? We didn't see any of it in round 1 or round 2.
Look, I've said it before. It's the great asset for Jimmy to slow down and be comfortable at a slow pace and fast pace, because it means he can dictate. But I'd much rather see him just go out head to head with players at a steady pace and put on a show. We've seen it there. The Grand Slam a few years back was the perfect example of that. When in the group stage, he's destroying people at ridiculous pace, averaging 110, and then the following round, he's playing slower than Mensur Suljovic.
Yeah. No, agreed.
To be devil's advocate on it though, it's a results business, and if Dimmy feels like he needs to mix up his name to do it, either right or wrong, that is why he will make the change. And he can look back at this one and say he played very well against Joe, but he wasn't on the right end of the result. And maybe if he would have slowed it down,
it is. However, I've got no problem with that. But if he is going to do that and pick and choose when he does it, he has to accept the criticism and the backlash he's going to get for it.
Yeah. Oh, without doubt. I'm with you on that. But I can also see why he thinks that might be the right course of action in certain games. I just think sometimes it's probably the wrong opponent to do it too.
Yeah.
It's got to be managed better.
And then MvG smashes up Hopo Puhau. And at this point, we're thinking Michael's in holiday mode. He's averaged 85 or nearly 86, 91. And we're just thinking, okay. But he got the job done. Upset. Another upset. Which we will talk on, because we've got different opinions on this. Gordon Mathers beats Michael Smith in probably the ups. We'll talk about it.
According to PDC.
We'll touch on that in a minute. We've got different opinions on this, so don't worry, chat room. It could get a little bit spicy because we have got different opinions. Our WhatsApp chat was quite funny. But fair play to Gordon Mathers into the semi-finals on home turf. And then Gerwyn Price goes through the World Cup pairing and gets a little bit of revenge. He beats Simon Whitlock, and this game all changed on that magnificent 167.
Yeah, he did. He spoke about Price in the previous match with his Tom plus Chetouts being key. And I think then there's one in this one, and it being one of the biggest in the 167 that was crucial to see Price get his revenge over both World Cup pairings. I'm sure he would want to do it on a bigger stage as well, and not just at the Darts Masters. But he got his revenge anyway, and a place into the semi-finals.
Yeah, and then of those semi-finals, semi-final number 1, Joe Cullen, MvG. And again, Joe Cullen, God, will be thinking to himself, how have I lost this game 7-5? Because again, Michael, sub 93 average, Joe almost 97. And at the moment, MvG has won 3 games with his C game and missed opportunity for the Rockstar.
It is, but when your opponent rocks up in a 7 out of 7 on the doubles, and I'm pretty sure one of them was a double-double on the ton, so he was 8 out of 7 at one point. There's just not a lot you can do about that. You miss, I hit, sort of darts from MvG, even at that low average. And look, perhaps Colin can be a little bit critical and say maybe I should have closed out a couple of those legs earlier, not giving him the opportunity. But sometimes they were the old style, pick your pocket from absolutely nowhere in a leg. The 127 in particular, Colin sat waiting on a finish, and you're just like, how's that happened? How's that got away?
Yeah. Then the second semi-final again. This was absolutely one-sided, Boise. Gerwyn Price absolutely smashed GG out of sight, and it could have been 7-0 at one point, and it looked like it could have been, but it wasn't. And it is the I am going to call it the dream final. Look, for me, this is the best game in darts right now when MvG and Price meet. And we had that final, boys. Spoiler alert, we've obviously already spoken about it. From playing his C game and at 3-1 down, looking at 4-1 down, he produces a 140 from nowhere and then comes back after the break and was just unplayable to win his 17th World Series title, boys. It's remarkable.
I think, the C down continued, didn't it? There was no changing that up until really just before the break. The start of that looked like it was going to be one-sided. MvG didn't find the levels, or he found the same levels he'd found across the rest of the week. But to just reel off 7 out of the last 8, to play like he did, it was very much reminiscent of what we saw at the match play from the back end. If you just take that clip of the last few legs of the match play and bring it into this, you just look like then it was just done one way. You just looked dominant, back to his best. Or getting back to his best. I wouldn't say back to his best, but getting back to his best in the sense of just not knowing how to lose games of darts. The man at the moment is just picking up everything as he goes along. Then it's hard not to see him picking up at least another one of the next 2 that are incoming on the World Series and putting himself into a great position then into the back end of the year. Where, let's be honest, for himself, he needs to climb up them rankings because where he's at the moment is not where he likes to be. He's not sitting top. He's not happy, and he's got a lot to do to get back up there, but there's nothing stopping him at the moment other than Durbin Price continuing to improve. And if that does happen, some of these finals could get very, very tasty.
Yeah, completely. Right, we've got a clip from Michael. We'll listen to the clip and then we'll have a discussion.
Getting to them levels again. I'm having them levels again. Do you know what I mean? Especially when I have to. I'm playing really good darts. When I'm under pressure, when they're really, really, really pushing me, I do the right things at the right moment, and that gives me a lot of confidence and it gives me a lot of joy. And from there on, I hope I can do something more in the next coming weeks. About trusting my darts, because I think my darts are absolutely perfect. I think Wimo is doing a really good job for me. It's more that I trust myself again, and that's really important. I know what I have to do again. I know what's that winning again. I got a feeling, and that's the combined package is really important to me. It was a slight breeze on stage, but we both have the same problems. You know what I mean? And then for Gazzy to be acting like that on the end, it's frustration. I understand that, but yeah, what can you do?
Some interesting points in there. First of all, we'll do Draftgate and Gezi not hanging around for the presentation party, Gob.
Well, where do we start? Someone take that bloody Instagram account off of him.
No. I love it. I love the Instagram account.
Yeah, I love it. Keep it. Allow him to have his phone mid-match. Let's throw it all into the mix. Let's have the lot.
What, a bit of Vinny? Michael and Vinny?
Just do a Vincent on the stage.
Yeah, why not?
Look, I think he's got every right to be annoyed at the crowd. This is how backwards they were. They were booing their own players or whistling their own players. I don't know if people like messaging mates going, "Oh, listen to this next one. It's going to be me on the TV," sort of thing. But they're whistling in the middle of Whitlock and Hatter throwing at times. I'm like, how thick can you get? But at other times, he clearly looked like he had a problem with somebody front right. I think not the players walk on the opposite side of the arena. He looked over that shoulder a couple of times. Wasn't that happy about it. But again, take that Instagram account off of him, especially in these sort of events, because that's not what they're about, is it? Look, you can say all news is good news or attention and publicity, whatever. But if you're there to grow the sport, smile, wave, get on with it and be done with it.
I like the fact that he he wears his heart on his sleeve and says it how it is.
I think there are ways to do it, especially when you're a sportsman at the level that he is. And ranting on Instagram the way that he does within 10 minutes of a result, rather than giving yourself a bit of time, doing the message, your standard response, right, didn't quite go my way, was a little bit annoyed with the crowd, but Michael still played well, blah, blah, blah. As the media-trained ones do, or the ones that get a little bit of support, look professional across social media, take a bit of attention off you, because I'm not being funny, that's not doing him any favours. Him wearing his heart on his sleeve doesn't go down very well with an awful lot of fans. I'm sat here talking to someone who I wouldn't even class myself as a fan a lot of time because of what we do. And when it doesn't go down with me, it doesn't go down with fans. It's not helping himself at all. And you might say don't care, but then the following week, he'll be sat there saying, "Oh, I'm fed up of getting booed now." So he clearly does care because he's moaned about it in the past.
Yeah, look, it's interesting. I will be critical that I think he should have stayed on stage for the presentation, and he will probably get fined for that by the DRA. The Instagram I like, but critical. I can't say it looked good that he didn't stay for the presentation.
Especially as that's not Michael's fault. Like, Michael's just up there doing what Michael's got to do. Michael's had it towards him in the past. You think about that Blackpool final against Phill Taylor. That was possibly the worst atmosphere I've ever heard in a dance. It was vile at times.
But still,
from one of the most celebrated crowds in the world.
Agreed.
I also don't enjoy it in the sport, but that's not on the other player. Especially not when there's two effectively neutral players in a final in a completely different country. If it was a home crowd player, that'd have been Whitlock he'd lost to. From ahead, turns the game on his head a little bit whilst playing and averaging 89, and then the crowd are on his back and Whitlock's doing absolutely nothing about it, then perhaps he's got a little bit of a right to get the hump, because the players will moan going, "Oh, we don't get any support when we're at home and when we're away," and then the minute they get home, they treat everyone else like crap. And sort of shrug it off and say, "I don't care." They've got events at home coming up. It's the same on the Euro Tour.
Yeah. We'll do this one next because this is just heartwarming.
And my mum actually came tonight, flew all the way from up there, Newcastle somewhere, and my son, and just to win in front of my mum, I think, it brings a tear to my eye, and she's always supported me with darts. More so my dad, who got me into darts, but my mum's here, and it's amazing.
For everything you've done in the sport, that must be a real career highlight for you then.
Yeah, definitely. You know what? It brought a tear to my eye. I've still got tears in my eyes now, but it was great. Just to see my mum in the crowd for the first time in my entire career, 38 years of darts, and she's there, and I won. It was great.
That's just nice, isn't it? That's one of the rare moments we don't get very often. 38-year career, and the first time Simon's mum's seen him play. That's just nice.
Yeah, it's certain sort of stories of family being there. I know, obviously, the one that stands out a lot is like the UK Open with Aspinall. Was it his granddad there who was there watching him support? It's that sort of feel about it that sometimes they're not looked at as a human being such, and they have that emotion there. So it is just a nice story, and the fact he was able to go and put in that performance to beat James Wade very convincingly was just an all-round good story from this weekend.
Wait. Before you do play this one, we're not going to see a second you on screen, are we?
No, because I don't think so. Right.
Heard or seen anything of the family, unfortunately. I've managed to get a little bit of information about he's doing a surgery, getting the kidney stones out. Hopefully he's doing well. But besides that, unfortunately, no message, no talk.
First of all, we'll do the Hope Peter writes well. one. We've seen he's obviously had his surgery on his gallstones. It was on his Twitter just before this one. Then we had one a few hours later saying operation was a success. So wishing Peter Wright a very speedy recovery, and hopefully he's all good. I'm guessing he's targeting Budapest for a return, but if not, the World Series final. So look, I hope Snakebite's all right. But first time we've spoken to Dimitri since the match play, and boys, no message, no contact. That surprises me because I thought there would have been a call or at least a WhatsApp chat a few days after the match play.
Yeah. The weird thing is, I would have expected it from Peter initially within a few days of that, like you said. But then part of me thinks I'd probably expect it from Dimmy now. If someone else is going into surgery, just a message or a chat, if that is their relationship. But as all we know from the relationship between the pair is obviously Dimmy stayed there and all the story through the Townsville. But we don't really know how close they have been since. And obviously we saw at Blackpool that the relationship wasn't as tight as what I think everyone expected it to be. So I am a little surprised. I'm sure that'll change when they are next at the same venue, which I'm with you. I'm guessing it will be Budapest, hopefully. Because we want to see Peter back on the stages as soon as possible.
Oh yeah, look, I'm not saying that they had a full blown let's go out for a beer and sort out, but just I genuinely thought there'd have been just a little WhatsApp between them.
Maybe, but for me, it needs to come from Dimmy first. He was the one that overreacted a little bit at the back end and whatever else. I think there's too much made of that master and apprentice style relationship anyway. Snakebite helped a fellow dart professional out when they were desperately stuck in need during COVID. It's a huge gesture, don't get me wrong, but it's still just a gesture of keep it, stay for a while, whatever else. Anything after that.
Bit of a difference between a gesture and someone living with you for months. I know it was a different world, wasn't it? But it's still a bit more than that.
Because in the build-up to the match play final last year, they spoke about how good it was and how much they learned from each other and everything like that. So I think it's been justified because of the responses they gave in the build-up to the match play last year.
One thing that will agree with Dob on it, I don't see it as a sort of a master and apprentice. I see it more as a friendship that grown because of that. As we see with a lot of players that people have had the support. Taylor's obviously the story with Bristol, but then that with Lewis. But these were players who were up and coming. Dimmy was already a PDC star or whatever by then. I think it's more on the relationship between the two than the sort of master and apprentice as it's been labelled by Stein.
Yeah, no, look, possibly.
Nice trophy.
So, again, talking points from this event. There are a few. Gob, you dropped off earlier, but James Wade and Johnny Clayton's form is a concern right now.
World of trouble. For different reasons as well. Johnny, I think, right now this is just a combination of a massive increase in the amount of travelling he's doing. And whilst that they do get the odd day downtime or whatever, and you just sat still, it takes it out of you massively, the amount of travelling that these guys do. And from someone who has had such a meteoric rise in 18 months, who isn't the youngest player on tour, he's certainly not the oldest, but he's not the youngest player on tour either. That will take things into account. He's worked an awful lot of his life, etc. And it's a different mentality. And I'm sort of seeing a lot of similarities with what we saw with Glenn Durham right now.
Yeah.
I don't think his action will break down to the same extent, but in terms of the initial Hunter having a massive rise. All right, admittedly, Johnny's was through non-ranked events, which in the long term might cost him ranking position and won't have helped him over the last 6 months in particular. But adjusting to that lifestyle, how many times have we mentioned about Johnny giving up work, etc.? As far as I know, Johnny's not worked all year. It was kept pretty quiet at the start of the year, and there was still comments about him being a plasterer. But Johnny hasn't worked all year, so he's got nothing to take his mind off it again. But he is knackered from all the travelling, so he's got no outlet, no release. And we saw this with Glenn Durrant. When Glenn committed full-time and left his job, what Glenn did was practice an awful lot and suddenly find he's got so much more downtime that he took to social media, got in a bit of a spat with Matt Edgar for a bit that was banter, but some of it teetered in an opposite direction. And at that point, removed himself from social media as well. So Glenn literally had nothing else to do but to think about darts. And I think Johnny might be looking something similar. It's a change in mentality to now being hunted and was in the conversation for one of the best players in the world for a period of time. That puts a target on your back rather than being able to just get up there, freely go at opponents like Johnny's been able to do in the past. As I said, travelling massive, long. He's been all over the place. He's been in all but one of the World Series, I think. The Premier League back to its full normal travelling schedule, plays all the Euro tours. I think he's missed one or two. And look, admittedly, some of this is the player decision, but he's been in an awful lot of exhibitions. Whether that be through COVID that players committed to that then got rolled over, or just high demand to want to see him, especially in Wales, in the hometown. He's just been all over the place all year. And he's a player that could definitely benefit from a break.
Yeah, I agree, but I also I get the work thing when you have nothing else to concentrate on. But just my opinion, you cannot be a top 10 PDC player and work. That you just can't do it. The way the schedule is, you can't do it.
No, but how many
year on year, I agree.
In the last couple of years have done it immediately from not having a job? How many have given up a job once they've reached that level? I can't think of many.
No. But there's no employer that you could do it, like you say, because your week goes from a Premier League point of view, hotel Wednesday, Thursday, you're away Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you travel home Monday, Tuesday you're at home, Wednesday you're back on the road again. So there's no way you can physically work.
But it's a bit like, I use golf for an example. When you're a golf pro at a local course, you can probably go around 4 or 5 under absolutely fine. When you're then doing it for your dinner and it's your only source of income, it's a little bit different.
Oh yeah, agreed.
Hitting or missing that double A is a difference between going out for dinner that night or eating packed sandwiches. Not at Johnny's level, for example, but further down the tour it is.
Yeah, no, I get that. Some great questions on there. We'll come back to them in a second regarding the World Series. I've seen them, Philip, don't worry. We can't not ignore it. The TV coverage. Again, horrific from ITV. One, not showing it live. But then two, when they are showing it, we didn't even get walk-ons. What's going on?
The saving grace is the fact that it's been all of it, and I believe it's continued to be. I checked today that it's going to be on PDC TV. So for the people who have purchased or have got certain devices that the Zed on there has still been able to watch it live. The fact that it's, like it says, the fact it's not live, we sort of spoke about last week. It's just the understanding of why don't I think people will tune in to watch it. So we've had Commonwealth Games that people tune in to watch that's on starting at 9, 10 o'clock. We've now got European Championships. Different sports are there. But we've also got Pro Tours that people tune in and watch. Obviously, we know that people tune into the live league to watch darts at the same time. It's no different. It's not 4 o'clock in the morning. This was the same time. 10 o'clock starts, give or take half hour. and I just can't understand why they're not showing it then. And then, like says, the fact that they are now showing it as delayed coverage, but getting rid of some elements that the War-Tons and stuff like that helped promote the game many, many years back, and now we're taking them away for the viewers at home not to even to be able to witness. Which, yeah, I just find it all very, very strange decisions that it's not being shown live and it's only for PDC TV viewers unless you're willing to wait another, 9 hours after?
Or whatever it is. Like, for PDC TV, it's brilliant because it's driving subscribers to them. And this is the first time they've even done it. Look, the Australian ones have never been shown live. But the way the world is now, they've realised they've got to, because people have got VPNs and ways of watching Fox in Australia now. And I'm not sure if it was this time, but certainly pre-COVID-19, it was on Era Sport in Ireland, which everyone in the UK was watching and things like that. So actually credit to the PDC for putting it on PDC TV live. It's ITV that have been the issue. But look, not showing it live, okay, I don't agree with it, but that's their choice, that's their prerogative. They bought the rights, they can do what they want. But to not show it in full when they then are showing it makes no sense.
I'm in total agreement with you on this
catch
one.
ITV coverage, but it's been a little bit hit and miss all over the place, hasn't it? We've had different ones that line up time-wise a lot better, delayed through various other sports and whatever. And it's not going to get any better for them either, because two events that the Football World Cup clash with, one of them's on ITV.
Yeah. Which again, they're doing one long session, so they can show live sport at that time in the morning.
Yeah.
And they're not starting at 10 o'clock.
Yeah,
which is
10
the
till
time,
6.
time So they're starting at 10 o'clock, which is the time that they started last Friday in Australia.
Correct.
UK time.
So, from Bob, the reason ITV, Fox, and everyone have the same commentary team is because the World Series events are a Matchroom Live production, which is I think the way that all Matchroom sport will go. They do it with boxing now, so they pick everyone. They just send the feed out to the broadcast partners. That's why it was all the same for ITV, Fox, and PDC TV. Matchroom just send the feed. Again, one we're going to talk about because it got social media absolutely hopping was a tweet on Friday, boys, which it's going to split us. I know it. Was the Gordon Mathers, Fallon Sherratt one-word upset in the tweet. Had Darts Twitter going round the twist.
And from my point of view, rightly so. It's just not fair on Fallon.
From my point of view, also rightly so.
From Phil's point of view as a media owner, he can see why they've done it to get clicks. But actually, in terms of a fairness towards Fallon, and after seeing the response from the World Championships in particular 7.5 months ago, they're just destroying someone who has been billed as one of the most marketable assets in the sport. They're tearing it down. She might bring in a couple of new fans, but in terms of existing or old fans, the way that Fallon's journey over the last year has been reported on, the way that Sky in particular have acted like she's the only female dart player that's ever existed, especially when reporting on women's series. It was a weekend where she won 1 of 4, no mention of Lisa. It was just constantly whenever Fallon was in or out. It's just not fair on Fallon.
I get and that I'm not arguing, but I can understand why they've done it. Like you say, from a media point of view, by doing that one tweet and that one video, the amount of extra views, clicks, and impressions it would have done, driving people to the PDC social channels, their engagement would have gone through the roof. So I can understand why they've done it.
Do you think
I
it's
agree
right?
with you.
It's just stupid, though.
I'm split. Half of me says no, it's not right, but the media side of me, look, we've done similar. Let's be brutally honest. With tweets and stuff like that,
We've done similar. You emboldened certain words on YouTube video just in case.
We've done similar. So and other media outlets have as well, not just in darts, just in sport in general. That's the way social media works. I'm not saying it's right, but
isn't it different though if it's the organisation of that the players are playing for than
but you listen to
outside
Barry.
journalist? Because let's flip it the other way around. But let's flip it the other way around. And I know you're going to mention it at some point, so I might as well now. But just imagine if Premier League were putting laughing emojis at a 4-0 result, or putting certain things they're in Brighton and Brentford, that sort of thing. From a Premier League perspective, they wouldn't do that status because it's not right to do that. Whether everyone's thinking it or not, and the other media outlets might, but they wouldn't, which probably makes me think, well, it does make me think that it's not right from the PDC to put that.
This is the fine line, because the Premier League, like you say, are a governing body. Effectively, all the PDC owns, the PDC is a promotional company. They just put on events and promote them. That's why it's been done, because then it's eyes on them.
Yeah, but long term, they're damaging their assets. And if they get more clicks on a tweet, yeah, brilliant, well done. But long term, what they've just done there is contribute to the hate and the resentment that established and regular darts fans feel towards Fallon Sherrock, who is also their ticket to cracking the women's game right now. They destroy her against fans, and nobody's going to watch either. So brilliant. They got an extra 1,000 views on a tweet involving Gordon Mathers that they might not have got. But long term, they've just completely shot themselves in the foot.
Look, there's no right or wrong answer to this. Look, like I say, I'm not saying I agree with it, but I understand it because we've done it. So I get it. From a media point of view, I 100% get it.
Yeah, look, I understand how and why clickbait exists, especially in the digital era, where everything is competition for clicks, likes, views, and impressions, because that's what makes this world go round. But from the organisers, effectively the governing body, look, they're not a governing body, but effectively for this side of the sport, which they built up as a sport, not as a promotion.
But, like you say, there is no governing body. There's no one to regulate them, because financially no one else can compete. So they'll just promote the events.
But like you said, you said there's no right or wrong. I think it's wrong, massively wrong. I don't think it's fair on the player. I don't think it's fair on both players, to be honest. Not just Fallon, and I'll Fallon them up. I don't think it's really fair on Mathers to say that.
Some people were saying it's not an upset, or it was an upset. It wasn't, right? Do I think it was an upset? Someone's asked me in the Twitter. No, I don't. However, you could also flip it, because Gordon Mathers, until that point, had never won a game on TV. So from that point of view, it could be deemed an upset.
Wasn't on TV in the UK till a bit later on. But, you know,
No, personally, I don't think, right now, I don't think it was an upset. But what I'm saying is, for a man that's never won a TV game, it could be deemed as one. It's not the worst thing.
I just don't think it helps the situation at all. I think I would like
Especially
to.
given the
I'd like
reaction
to think the PDC. Yeah, I'd like to think the PDC would have learned from some of the mistakes that Sky have been making, because they have been Sky's tweets, and PDC obviously would have seen those. That they would have they would have learned from those.
Everyone lost their shit about the Statue of Liberty tweet, and I was sat next to them as they tweeted it out. They knew exactly what they were doing. There was a picture of Fallon next to the Statue of Liberty, and the tweet was the most famous lady in town. And genuinely, some of the responses, people were going off on one. It's like they're on about the Statue of Liberty, like their lady, but people just took it. They knew exactly what they're doing.
Look, that bit different though. That's not disrespectful to an opponent or stating an opinion. Basically, if you're promoting your event, that's the sort of tagline or whatever comment you're going to come up with. When you're talking about players in a sport that you supposedly manage, there's a little bit of a difference again.
But like I was saying, the fact that, look, but by the way, I don't think it is an upset. But like I say, the fact that Gordon has never won a game on TV, you could spin it as an upset. Is what I'm saying. There is an out to it. I'm not saying I agree with it, but there is an out.
I just think it's silly.
I just don't think it's helping.
Oh, cool. And they know exactly. 100%. They know exactly what they're doing.
Fallon. That's it.
100%.
Yeah, deliberately reckless is the way I'm going to end it.
Right, let's jump back into the chat room because there were some really good questions on the World Series before we move on. Philip says, do you know why the leg difference in the quarterfinals and the semi-finals has changed so shortly before the event? No, is the honest answer. Was this the same length as Amsterdam Globe or not?
I thought it was.
But Amsterdam was a different length to Budapest, wasn't it? Or am I making that up?
Wait a minute, let's have a look.
I'm sure one of them was different.
So the US was best of 11, 15, 15, 15. Nordic was 11, 19, 21, 21.
Yeah.
The Dutch
this was 11, 13, 15.
11, 13, 17. So this one was the same as the Dutch, but the Nordic and US were completely different altogether.
Right, 17's first to 9. This final was 8. This was 15.
Yeah, so was Holland.
You just said 17.
Oh, sorry, no, 15. Dimitri beat Dirk 8-2. So this was the same length as the Dutch. The reasoning, I genuinely don't know, Philip. I'll try and find out, though. Because you'd have thought you'd have had them all the same.
So this is the shortest format, and yet we didn't get walk-ons.
Well, we did live, but ITV just didn't show them.
Madness.
A lot of people agreeing with the ITV coverage. Yeah, completely. Lee says Phil saw that Neil Duff upset. No, we were just Neil's a Chelsea fan and I'm a Spurs fan, mate. We were chatting about it on Messenger at the same time. No, like I said. Yeah, no, I said earlier. No, I personally, I don't think it was an upset. Lendl, it's good for the PDC, but as we all know, the PDC will do what's right for the PDC. We've seen that for many years. I know it's one of Golf's bugbears, but we've seen it a lot. They will do for what, in calling a word from Triple H, they will do what's best for business, as Matchroom do in a lot of sports. Are all remaining events going to be over the same leg format? Good question, and I can tell you, well, we're just going off. So
I presume all of the Oceanic will follow the same.
Wollongong is the same, and New Zealand is the same as well. So yeah, the three in Australia are all the same format.
2 in Australia.
Yeah. So again, Harry, we've got the Gordon Mathers interview will be coming out tomorrow because he spoke more generally than about the game. So the Gordon Mathers one will be coming out because he speaks about keeping his tour card. That's part of the reason why we kept that one back. And Hope I had loads of other commitments to do there because obviously he was the first Oceanic player to win and beat Johnny. So by the time he was all done, we went on to the next one, so couldn't get him. So, right. Before we move on, have we missed anything from the World Series this week, boys? Any talking points that you want to bring up? Or you want to rant about?
Me, rant? Never.
Always.
Hate to be that guy.
Did we mention the Carl Anderson Memorial Trophy? Can't remember if we did or not.
I'll tell you what, that tribute video, I can't watch it anymore. It still gets me. Yeah, Bob, we spoke about the breeze. Look, we get breezes in pretty much every arena going. We had them loads in the Premier League as well. Players just have to learn to deal with it. A lot of the time, it's a door left open somewhere that does it, because Lee's obviously been to the venues behind the stage. There's like doors on either side, which creates a vortex, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's something you're always gonna that, unfortunately. How do you get that many people into a venue and there's not going to be a breeze coming in from somewhere?
Yeah. So, moving on, we're going to stay on the World Series theme, but just go on. Obviously, it's been Nico brought it up, and a bit that Barry said about ranking events replacing World Series events long term. Although in theory, I like it. Right now, surely financially, it's not sustainable to do that right now. The way the prize money structure is now, players aren't going to fly halfway around the world and potentially win nothing.
Well, I guess there's sort of few parts looked at. One of which you looked at flights for. How much was the flight to across the three events, roughly?
Across the three events, flights alone were between 10 and 12 grand. It was something ridiculous.
So if you think of that, and I know people will say a lot of which have got management teams or people who pay for that, but the second side to it is what something Dob alluded to earlier about Johnny Clayton. Not all these top players have Dave at work. A lot of them still work. So to do something like this and then to give up 3-4 weeks holiday to then go and play, yes, there's potential to earn X amount of money, but you've also got to make sure you're working that across the rest of the year when you've already got Pro Tours that have moved to midweek, and there's all those other things that need to be moved around. I'm not sure it would be the right move. I'm with you at the minute. And something to consider, but certainly not right now.
Go.
I just don't trust them.
Trust who?
The PDC. If these were to suddenly become ranking events, I don't know what criteria they'd use, how they shoehorn players in, and if we're still having to take all 8 big names in the sport rather than take 6 and 2 next-gen stars, or however you want to phrase it, to sell out these venues elsewhere, then they're not commercially viable to go to. Marco van Gerwen has won 17 World Series events now, as you said earlier. At some point, Marco van Gerwen is well known around the world. That's not the issue. Darts fans around the world understanding the rest of the tour and the rest of the players who are involved in getting behind others and building fan bases, etc., is what it needs. And the fact you take 8 players every year, the majority of World Series players, unless they've only made their World Series debut in the last 18 months, have played at least 10, if not more, World Series events now. It's just the same regurgitation. And they're the same players that play Premier League constantly. And look, at some point, those players are going to get boring or drab. So I just don't know.
The only
They'd
way
have
to
to create
do a
another
ranking,
ranking list, perhaps.
or you'd have, say, for argument's sake, next year we're going to make the US Darts Masters a ranked event. The only way to then do that would be to have the qualifying criteria or qualifier, however you're going to do it, on a Pro Tour weekend, like they've done for the World Series event, the World Series qualifier. The Grand Slam qualifier is penciled in as part of a block. And then once you know the 16, 32-man field or whatever it is, you then fly everyone over. I think that's the only way that you could do it. Everything would have to be predetermined who had qualified for these events if you were going to do them.
You still need the home players to build that buzz and atmosphere in areas that haven't quite reached their potential yet. So do you have home nation qualifiers potentially? Where are they? Are they in the US? Are they in the UK? You're going to then exclude players or make the likes of Matt Campbell, Jeff Smith, Danny Baggage fly back to the US to try and qualify when, let's be honest, they're still going to want those players involved. How many of the 8 that are in Australia right now would have gone if it was a ranked event, given how busy their schedule have been? Unless there's serious financial reward, like bigger than a Euro Tour, almost a mini TV major on the line for winning it. How many do you genuinely think they're out of the 8?
1,
chasing cash.
2, 3, 4. Oh, I'm sorry, out of the 8, not the. Can we say 10? Can we say 10? Because 2 of the other 8 shouldn't be there.
Whitlock and Hatter.
Agreed.
I think they'd have chased it because they're the home players.
That's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. They'd have gone.
Yeah.
Out of the rest of them, you
Michael
might
Smith.
have got a Cullen and a Smith.
Yeah.
I genuinely think your Van Gerwen, your Wade, your Gezi, your Johnny, given just how busy he's been for the last few months, would not have travelled if it weren't for the risk of an Adrian Lewis turning them down and then never getting picked again.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So how do you then put
But
them
it's
guys
just-
into a qualifier and then sell TV and tickets that have, I don't think we've ever sold out in Australia. That might be completely overstated, but I don't remember a single World Series leg down under where I don't recall Stuart Pike telling me there's still tickets available for next week.
I might be wrong, but didn't Hamilton sell out in its first? Is it Hamilton or wherever the New Zealand one is? The last time they went there, I'm pretty sure that sold ridiculously well.
Potentially. It's a bit smaller though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Australia, you are relying on the locals. There's no travelling. No one's getting a flight down from Perth to come and watch.
No, exactly, and that's part of the reason why they've moved it to the areas they've moved it to. That they know. I don't know if you heard me when we were talking about it. That they moved to Wollongong and Townsville deliberately because there was huge darting communities there. And again, I think that's shown. Like we said, they've sold 5,000 tickets for the coming weekend.
Which is very impressive. However, would they have sold that well if you don't know what the field is? Because your qualifiers and your rants and certain players are not there.
Well, this is the bit we don't know, isn't it? I know Juanita's not in tonight, but that's what we said to her last week, wasn't it? We said, do you think it would sell if only 4 of those 8 went and it was 4 lesser ranked players? Do you still think it would have sold? And she said yes. But of course, the proof's in the pudding. You don't know, do you, until you try?
Yeah. I was just also on the qualifying. It's to have a qualifying event as well doesn't always then mean that we have a good follow-up tournament, because you have some people who can just turn up on that one day, and we've probably seen it with the World Series qualifying event. Yeah, the 8 players in there, and I don't want to dismiss them before they already turn up, but if you looked at it from a field and current form, them going into that, if they continue their current form minus that qualification day, you wouldn't expect a good qualification field to go into there and one of those to have a deep run or a couple of those to have a deep run. Probably not be a side. You could have that with a World Series as well.
Yeah, so someone's asked, Bob says, how much are tickets? Right, I don't know how this relates to other sporting events in Australia or anything like that. I don't know how this marries up. But for this coming weekend, they are tables $77, tiers $61. Yeah, Gob, you say that though, but we don't know how that compares to general sports tickets in Australia.
Yeah.
That might be
as an English little day allocated stuff between AUD and GBP.
Oh, you know, but what I'm saying is that might be on par for sporting events in Australia. If any of our Australian contingent are in, how does that marry up to other sporting events? Just out of interest. Are we doing Preston all right? So, Hamilton 2019, Philip said, yeah. So it's interesting that I think, again, first of all, we're going to get a ranking major in Germany, first of all, I think, before we get one.
It would seem the right step. It would seem the right step to how many Euro tours that they've had in there. It'd be very strange if not. And I think if it wasn't anywhere other than Germany, there'd probably be more questions around, is it just as the cash that's been put in, or that they're willing to pay for it to be somewhere else? i.e., if it turned up in somewhere like China or Saudi Arabia or something, there'd probably be more question marks going about the financials of that than if it was to end up in Germany. And I think next, probably not far in line in that, if we don't further afield, would be the USA. But then, very good one this year, and it's just more there. We'll push it in the US with the players they've got as well.
But also, where does the World Series go from here in the short term, boys? Because obviously you've now got people saying there should be less, when I actually think the PDC are looking at doing more.
I'm not opposed to the number we've got at the moment or a couple more. But for me, it's more around seeing a bit of a variation in the field than if we have more. What we don't want to see is just a continuous Premier League, but with home nations playing. And yes, we saw a few wins here from the Australians and New Zealand, and we've seen them on other ones. But there is also some of these events where we have 7 or 8 of the PDC stars, as they're called, going through. And then because they're the same names from the Premier League, you've just got a carry on from those games. So for me, yes, as long as there's more variety in the picking of the field and not the same players throughout, minus probably the top 3, because I know they will have to be the top 3 or 4.
To be fair, the picking of the players is always going to be the bit that causes the most controversy.
Yeah.
It always will. It always has for the Premier League, and it will for the World Series.
But does there then come a point where players, obviously we know an example of someone refusing and then not being after then, but do you think there has to be a time where the players can have those conversations about not being in all of the events before the named?
I think it depends who it is. I think one of the
I know it's for
one of the
different
top
reasons.
3.
We haven't got our world champion here.
I think
Say again?
that was for medical reasons this time, wasn't it?
Yeah, I know it's different reasons, but you can look at it now and think, oh, well, actually, as a sort of a fairness from the player, we might be able to pull X from that tournament or X from that tournament and it not have an impact.
The world champion, regardless of who it is, will always be in them all if they want to.
Can't wait for Rob Cross to win the championship and not play Premier League or World Series.
Part of me actually wants Rob Cross to win the Premier League for that and win the Worlds for that reason, just to see. Could you imagine if he
Player power.
sticks to it?
If he genuinely does and sticks up to that, the PDC have no option but to change. Or pay him a shed load of money to be there and then he's buckled.
I think option 2 may happen.
Yeah.
I only say that because it was quite funny back in the day. Phill Taylor's last year, the fact he'd won the match play and he was in the world final, and early stages of that world final, there was a conversation, and I can't remember who said it, but someone said, this wouldn't look good, would it? The match play champion and the Premier League champion and the world champion walking off into the sunset and not being in the Premier League. And whilst it was close early on, there was a lot of nervous people around.
Good though. Like I said, it would have to bring about a change, so
Well,
I rate it.
or the player,
Also, I
or
did
the
some
player
thinking
would have changed,
of
or the player would have
price
changed and played.
everything else. So what do we say they were? 71 table, 60 something.
77
On the
for
back.
table, 61 for tiered.
Right, you can go and watch an AFL game for a tenner
What's AFL?
or ticket Aussie rules,
Right, okay.
or tickets for the ICC World Cup start at $20 a person, but they're mainly about $40.
Right, okay.
T20 ICC in Australia next year.
Yeah, yeah.
That was the
Yeah, that's
Gulf and MCG for England, New Zealand.
Yeah, that's why I said I didn't know how it carried up ticket-wise. Is there a point now there, boys, that there actually needs to be a physical break in the calendar. Because at the moment there isn't, is there? There's like 2 weeks here, maybe 3 weeks there if you're lucky. It's pretty continuous.
You spend all year trying to work out
should be one.
The calendar, and now you want an entire month off.
No, I'm saying should there. I didn't say I wanted one. I'm saying should there. I'm asking the question.
Yeah. But like Barry says, if you can't be asked, the next player will. I'm starting to not believe anymore. In the past, 100%, there was definitely that risk. But when Pro Tours and Challenge Tours have clashed this year, the top 16 Challenge Tour have all gone Challenge Tour.
Is that, though, because of the reward on offer?
Yeah. But that's poor scheduling from them, and then they've got to try and put them on different weekends all over again, and they're losing more time.
Well, like I say, I genuinely think within the next 3 years...
didn't play World Series qualifier. 23 didn't play World Series qualifier.
I genuinely think within the next 3 years, all Pro Tours will be midweek.
I think that's coming anyway. I think it will be all week. For me, I'm not that fussed about a break, but then it just comes back to, is that fair on your My Tools is probably the best example, he's one who's having to play that near enough 12 months round, whereas a lot of the players, minus your PDC stars who are invited or your Oceanic players, they've got this month off. So there is a break for those. It's then just splitting that field up, isn't it? Which they're not going to do.
Chat room, before we move on, anything else that you want to talk about the World Series? Before we
just get rid of it?
Move.
Well, if you get rid of it, we'll save 7 weeks a year.
Do you not think that they'd fill it with something?
We get rid of 7 weeks there. We save 7 weeks on the Premier League. We create one new major tournament, and then we have an extra weekend for a Euro Tour, and then there's your month break that you want as well.
Oh, I thought you was going to get rid of the 7 Worlds. I thought you was going to get rid of the 7 World Series weekends and then add to the Premier League, so we could have an extended Premier League. You'd be for that, wouldn't you, Doc?
Yeah, because that's what that tournament really needs. More worthless weeks that nobody cares about.
God, I've got more chance of shitting in the Queen's bed than the Premier League getting shortened.
Stupid.
Who's due?
Premier League will not get.
It might not because it makes you money, but again, long term, it is damaging their product. Less is more.
But when they keep selling out, is it? You say that, but when they keep selling out arenas for 16 weeks, is it damaging it? If these arenas weren't selling out, I might agree with you. But the fact they keep selling out, there's an argument to say it's not.
It will stop.
Some interesting points in darts this week. Now, this one's going to get everyone happy, or no thing. There was a lot of Nordic and Baltic action where Darius Levanauskas and Daniel Larsson secured places at the World Championship. Let's discuss, boys. Because again, this highlights...
Surely we're all going to agree on this one.
This highlights the issue.
They'll find a way not to.
No, look, I'm with you on this one. That this can't
Bloody hell. Hang on.
What show are we on? 82? and Phil's a dream.
To be fair, I can say something stupid if you want me to.
No, we've had enough of that.
We hear that all week. No one else.
No, you
Yeah, we hear that all
screw me
week.
and
No
I'll
one
put
else
it in the
needs to doing these
I
2
used
hours.
to say the stupid shit.
Are you saying that Phil's Jar's replacement? Is that what you're saying?
No comment. He's on holiday. I don't want to ruin his holiday.
But again, this highlights the issue with the system that Darius Labanauskas going to the Worlds in a year that he was in a little bit of bother. Let's be fair, he's not had the best of years and needs that World Championship money. Has gone and secured it, bar another means that certain players around him in that order of merit don't have.
Yes. Look, backdoor entries
It's
suck.
not right.
And this is the issue when you build up a tour and just keep adding parts to it. What they've effectively done is start building a Lego model 20, 30 years ago and just keep adding new blocks to it that don't quite fit in or look slightly out of place, but just keep going anyway because that's all they've got, because it would take too much time to knock it all down and start again.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree.
They're going to come unstuck eventually. I feel like people are going to think I hate the PDC now. I don't hate the PDC. Look, what they've done for the game is magic, but I just question their decision making and their process making an awful lot. I believe that darts is a sport and that it should be governed in that way. And there's an awful lot of decisions that aren't made for those reasons. And I don't think commercial viability should ever come into a sport to try and strengthen that position. But again, we just see these little niche scenarios popping up all over the place, and instead of ever halting in their tracks, starting again, they just paper over it or come up with an alternative constantly.
Well, that's why I'm actually kudos to the CDC. We'll touch on them again in a minute. The fact that from next year, tour card holders cannot play in their events, and I am a massive fan of that. And they've done that off their own back. That wasn't a PDC directive. That was their call, their choice to justify to their members that, look, play with us and you can achieve your dreams, not someone else dropping back in and taking those spots.
Yeah. Which I like. And also, isn't it also the case that Darius would now go into the draw as a qualifier spot, but if he gets there as a top 32 either way, then he'll pick up that spot instead?
Correct, yeah.
Not going as a qualifier, because that cost Jeff Smith the other year, didn't it?
Yes,
in terms
it
of
did.
place in the draw. It screwed him over royally.
Because he went and won the Continental Cup, or was it? I think. Yeah. Tommy, we said the same about Lisa last year, mate. When I don't know if you were watching the shows, we've highlighted that issue that Lisa could have kept her tour card off the back of getting to the Worlds through the Women's Series and not through the Pro Tour.
Yeah,
it's just not right. And this isn't a dig at any of the players. This is the systems that within you playing. That at the moment, if you're 25 up and British, you're at a disadvantage because there aren't as many ways for you to qualify for tournaments.
Yeah, because you've got the World Championship qualifier is there, would be their routing if they don't make it through the Order of Merit. But also, for example, and we'll use him as he's done through this weekend, Darius would also have that same opportunity if he wasn't in that position. So it'd be a further qualification for him to come through.
It'd be a third chance for him to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. And the flip of that is that the players who play on the Nordic and Baltic Tour, they're also missing out on an opportunity because they are being defeated by PDC Tour card holder, which we won't now see on the CDC Tour. It just is a mod, but I'd like to see it change. And for me, overarching, I think the PDC should be making that decision and not the relevant tours. I know they are separate to the PDC and just affiliated. But if PDC said that their tour title holders couldn't play in those to qualify for our Worlds, unless it was for our Order of Merit or any other qualification, then surely that would override those tours.
To be fair, there's an interesting one that's coming up as well, and the interview with him will be out tomorrow or Wednesday, and we speak about this, but he doesn't know the answer. Scott Williams, say he finishes top of the Challenge Tour Order of Merit, and he finishes within the top 64 like he is now. Does he get to choose which option he takes? Does anyone know? Because he's not sure either.
I'd suggest
He knows which one he likes.
I'd suggest it would be the Pro Tour in 1 year because that system is higher ranked. But he's then at a massive disadvantage of effectively having to start again on all the prize money he's earned this year.
Well, yeah, because if he takes the 1 year Order of Merit, if say he finishes in the 64,
where he is, but he gets one more. He only gets 1 year at the Pro Tour to increase his position.
Where if he could take the Challenge Tour Order of Merit, yes, he'd start on 0, but he'd have 2 blank years at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. To be fair, the interview coming out is actually really, really good. He speaks really well, but no one's kind of sure that what the route is. Do you get a choice or do you not?
Top 64. Because wasn't that the same with Brooks and the World Cup and World Championship? If he won that extra game, then he kept the 1 year, didn't he? And it not wrapped.
Yeah, but that was different because he already had a tour card, so it just means he kept it. Where at the moment Williams hasn't got one.
No, but I guess it's the same situation then, isn't it? That top 64 are automatically on the tour next year, and then tour cards are handed out to winners and whatever else underneath that.
Don't get me wrong, there are a lot of people on the Challenge Tour hoping that's the case, because then his place goes down one.
Yeah.
Also, Larry Butler rolls back the years and wins a CDC title this weekend. I caught up with some of the CDC action today. Again, very good over the pond, boys.
Yeah, it's continuing to impress. We saw that with the last tournament with the numbers wise, and there's a couple of names in there that we've seen obviously on PDC tour. We've seen a couple in the seniors in Larry and David Cameron. Who were performing to a very good standard this year, and it just continues to impress. And God says it is growing. It will take time, but it is definitely growing over there, and it's nice to see because there is a lot of big names when you look at the CDC tour.
Yeah, up massively. Will there be any coverage of the Champions and Champions of Cardiff? Not live coverage as in to watch games, I don't believe, but we will be there keeping you up to date. Right. Have we missed anything else in a week of darts, boys?
Don't think so.
Graham Hall won week 3 of the Live League, played really well on Saturday night. An absolute stellar looking lineup this week. But other than that, so we're going to get question time open because we've got a little bit more time. We can actually go into some good questions and some in-depth stuff. No, Daniel, I'm not going to New Zealand. Upcoming development tour events. Yeah, look, it's getting close to cut-off point for the development tour. Gob and that. I was going to say, Wim Albert Unicorn Mixed Lots now Windmill. World Youth Championship cut off as well.
Yeah. Which is completely different to the development tour. So anybody under the age of 23 should be allowed to play in that one.
Yeah.
I'm amazed. We didn't talk about development tour. We said backdoor entries a minute ago.
Well, it's the
Then
same.
we've done that
It's the
one.
same. It's the same principle. It's too expensive, Daniel, to justify the cost. But again, just looking at the development tour order of merit now, and out of that top 10, Keane Barry, Nathan Rafferty, Gert Nenches, Josh Rock, Bradley Brooks, Nathan German, Sebastian Bilowetsky, Louis Williams, Kevin Dukes. There's a very familiar feel to that top order of the development tour.
Careful, will upset people.
I don't give a flying. Philip says your winning predictions for the next 5 development tour events this weekend. Right, so I think Josh Rock will win at least 2.
Is he going? Because he's missed a few, hasn't he?
I presume so because there's nothing else on. Josh Rock will win 2. Keane Barry will win 1. Sebastian Bilowetsky will win 1. And Fabian Smuxler will win 1. Just going a bit different.
Where did that one come from? I'll take a Rafferty win, a Jitse van der Waal win, and one slightly further down, an Adam Gavlas win. I'm just going.
That'll be Lunday.
Oh my word! How has Zaha just missed that? What an absolute!
I don't know, but whatever
Brooks
it is, I'm
and
glad he has.
Durden win 1 each. Rock wins 1 and Barry wins 2. For me.
Yeah, Gene Van Veen possibly, but a few little concerns for me around his action. I don't want to go too, but if he's right, Gene Van Veen could easily rock up and win. Yeah. We've got an interview with Gene coming out as well. We did one with him, which was good. Best player ever from England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, and Ireland. Whoa.
Philip.
Yeah, I think we'll all agree on the England one.
Philip.
Yeah.
Scotland between 2 right now, potentially a 3rd in a couple of years.
This is an easy one for me.
I'm going to say Gary just, but if Wright wins 1 more major, then I'm seriously close to putting Wright over Gary.
Is it wrong then that Wright's
Gary
3rd on my list?
Yeah.
You got Jockey first.
No, I've got Gary, Jockey, Peter.
It is Gary for me.
Yeah, Gary for me from Scotland. Wales is going to be interesting.
I think because there's such a big gap between Leighton Reese and Alan Evans, and then Gezi, it's difficult to compare. I'd never really seen Alan Evans or Leighton Reese throw.
You're missing another name in there as well, which has to be spoken about.
Richie?
Yeah.
For me,
again, a bit before your time. That 2.5 year period, this is including Phill, by the way. Richie Burnett was the best player on the planet, throwing darts from the gods. But in terms of,
but he only had one to show for it.
But for me, Wales' best ever player in terms of the numbers he hits is Gezi.
Yeah.
So the numbers he's now hitting, and doing it in the era that he's doing it. Gezi for me for Wales.
Yeah, and so much more to come.
Yeah. Northern Ireland, Darryl Gurney. 1, 2 PDC majors for me.
Yeah.
Ireland's a tough one. Ireland's a really tough one.
Where's Jack McKenna? Was he north or south of the border?
Good question. South. He was from Newbridge.
Do we put McKenna in the conversation?
He has to be in
Tom
there.
Kirby. Tom Kirby.
Kirby for me, just.
Again, this is all a bit before my time.
Yeah. So yeah. Johnny says, "Do you want a controversial question or an easy one?" Give us whatever you want, Johnny. If we don't answer it,
17 minutes left, so you tell us.
Yeah, that's for me. Again, keep getting your questions in, everyone. Who's going to the World Series in Amsterdam? What, you mean those? You mean the final 2 picks, Lendor?
No, I think he means out of us. Phil's nabbed that one. Amsterdam's mine.
Yeah, but after you've slated the World Series. Yeah, no, I'm going Lendor. Look, those last 2 picks could be anyone now. I've still got a funny feeling they might give one to Luke.
Potentially, because he didn't go to the qualifier.
Luke and
They cannot give it to anybody that went to the qualifier and failed.
Why not?
Because they've already had an opportunity to be there. And at which point, why on earth are they at the qualifier? Because they may well have beaten somebody at the qualifier, then lost the following round, and then get gifted a route there anyway.
Well,
Cross won't go.
We've a right or wrong. We've a right or wrong. We've just spoke about someone having more than one opportunity to qualify for the Worlds. So why would the PDC not allow that route?
You can't go and openly hand one to somebody else.
But they're telling you that they are going to, though. That's the thing. They've told you that we are going to openly invite 2 players.
I think Humphreys and Aspinall.
I think it'll be the guys from down under. I think it'll be Mathers and Pua or Rob.
I think Humphreys and one. Humphreys and one from the next two events.
It would be very
Bob
hard
said-
to exclude others of it.
Just going to check something before I say, because I haven't looked. I know he's all right. I was just double checking. I couldn't remember if Dirk was on the original list because he only had got one bite, but he is. So I was just double checking. Because if not, Dirk would have got 100%. Best youth player at the moment.
Define youth.
Has to be Josh Rock, doesn't it?
Hard to debate it from. Really?
As an out-and-out youth, Josh Rock's a man.
Yeah, but he's still playing youth dart.
Yeah. Luke, no offense, Luke is throwing some sensational stuff.
Luke Littler is qualified as a
Josh
youth
Rock.
in everything he enters. Josh Rock is qualified as a youth/development in the PDC only. Everything else he's older. Again, not a dig at Josh. It's just a dig at the sisters. I played it till I was 24. I played it till I was 24, for Christ's sake.
Does the Grand Prix format need changing? First, the 2 sets is too short. I like the double in format, but I think round 1 maybe should be best of 5 in the first round, not best of 3.
Yeah, I wouldn't be touching the double in format.
I like the double in, but I would go best of 5 in the first round. But that then causes
for one of
chaos.
the main. Yeah, one of the main events of the year, which first round should be longer than what it is.
Yeah, I agree. We're agreeing an
at least
awful lot.
there's
So I don't like this.
No, neither do I.
You two are.
Would you keep the Grand Prix as it is?
Yeah.
First round? You're just saying that now.
If it's in Ireland, keep it as it is so we can get out and get done. If it's in Leicester, then make it longer. People have got homes to go to, and the City West is in the middle of nowhere.
Right. Johnny's question. Yeah, look, it's out there now. Look, it was going to come up sooner rather than later, but yes, for the first time, we have a transgender darts player qualifying for the WDF Championship. Victoria Monaghan is qualified. I think there are some sports where transgender people playing or competing simply cannot happen and shouldn't happen. I mean, in terms of like boxing and things like that, because I just don't agree with it. There is a massive advantage in that someone could physically get killed. But in terms of darts, look, there's nothing wrong with it. Do I think they've got an advantage? No. And it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, boys. What are your thoughts on it?
Take a drink first. This is across the board as well. This isn't just in darts, and I think this plays out in the PDC a lot better than it will in the WDF, who have a men's category and a women's category. I think there should be an open in the PDC. It'll work fine. Anybody that is transitioning in either direction or starting from a male to a female, should play in the open category. There's a women's category that should be reserved for biological women. That's what it exists for. I think the same exists in pretty much any other sport, and we've seen similar moves made in rugby, cycling, and I think swimming might follow suit very, very soon after the controversy surrounding Leah Thomas. We've seen the weightlifter Laurel Hardy, I think, as well. That's caused some controversy over the last couple of years as well. I think in every sport, the society as a whole does need to be more open and accepting, but there should be open categories and women's categories. There is physiological differences that cannot be reversed or cannot be controlled once a male has gone through puberty.
Great. And that's why I say about boxing and rugby and things like that. That just cannot happen.
Testosterone or steroids or whatever you take, you cannot reverse the physiological differences that having a male puberty will bring you over a female puberty. So, do I think it's right that Victoria is playing in the women's in the WDF? No. If it was to happen in the PDC, should they be playing in the open category rather than the women's? Yes.
Yeah. No, agreed.
Is that currently the case? No.
Look, we knew it was going to come up sooner or later, and we've answered it. So hope you haven't offended anyone.
Why don't you say that after every comment, Phil? Why have you just?
Because he don't give a fuck.
Should be the end of the show. We'll have that as a little ticker across the bottom throughout from next week.
After the weekend, I couldn't get. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Right. We're back into the chat room. Tommy, if someone had to throw a 180 to save your life, who would you pick for it?
I don't know, but somebody said Dave Chisnell earlier, and whilst he hits a lot of 180s, that is the worst action under pressure I have ever seen. Are you trying to get yourself killed?
If I could pick a period of time with that player, it would be 15-16, Gary Anderson. For me.
Or Peter Wright with his first World Championship darts. Because I've never seen him hit so many maximums as what he hit with them.
Yeah, but he's throwing for your life. You know he's gonna throw two in the bed and then change to a different set of darts. So just not
yeah, no. Smith would be up there, or Gando, Lewis or Gando in their prime. Because Lewis used to hit a bucket load as well.
Get a win price in a last leg decider.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He's got some stones, that boy. Yeah. What else have we got? Ryan Searle throwing 32 grams against, Ryan Searle throwing bombs. Matthew says player to hit a 9 darts to save your life. At the moment, Price.
Yeah.
Already.
Big Johnny, worst shaped flights in history, ongoing pairs. No, what was those? Was it the Vortex flight where it was all like mashed up at the top end or whatever it was? They were pretty bad. Or the Bobby George flat top flights were horrific, where you just cut them across the scissors so they would square at the end.
I don't like big wings. I find they take ages in the air.
I used to really like throwing kite flights.
My friend throws kite flights.
I used to.
That's not what he called it when he first got them. Or when he first saw them, he was rather nasty about them. Then he tried a set and suddenly he loved them.
Yeah, I love a kite flight back in the day.
I cannot say what he used to call them on air though.
Best double tops and double 16 here. What? Right, not right now, but generally James Wade tops over the years. However, at one point, Robert Thornton would run it close. There was a period where Thornton couldn't miss tens, couldn't miss tops. Right now, I think Price would be a shout for the top tier, but overall, I'd say Wade. I think for me.
I don't want to pick Wade, but you're probably right.
Prime Anderson.
Baby.
Prime Anderson, Bill, was fantastic at everything. I would just love, just for 1 year, to have that Gary Anderson back. I've resigned myself. It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen, but I would just love that Gary back for one final year.
More chance of Spurs winning a trophy, son.
Yeah. Is there a draw for Wollongong? Graham, there will be, but when we get it is another matter. There will be a draw. Last week's one was ridiculously late, boys, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Which means
nearly as late as the coverage, to be honest.
Yeah. Will anyone hit a 9 darter 3-1-6-7s?
Exhibition, maybe, not in a professional game, because there's absolutely no advantage to swap into the bullseye third dart. Especially when I don't believe that you'd ever be blocked significantly enough in back-to-back visits from putting one in each of the two highest valuable trebles.
Yeah. Live draw Thursday evening again. Great. So another late one, getting everything out.
Thursday morning then for us, so 24 hours notice.
Yeah. A venue you'd bring back for darts?
The Heart of the Midlands Club. Absolutely nothing to do with the fact that I'm about 10 minutes from my house.
I'm all for that one, Lendl. Reebok, UK Open.
I'm with Lendl on that one. The UK Open at the Reebok, all in one room. And
I politely
nothing,
you boys, it is now the University of Bolton Stadium.
It'll always be the Reebok.
We'll bring back Reebok. It's fine.
James says Jolly's. Yeah, look, I was gutted. Jolly's obviously one of the venues I never got to go to. Vegas, the Desert Classic. Yeah, that'd be all right.
No, Vegas is all right for us and the players. Vegas for fans, nobody cares, and the majority of it was propped up by Brits that travelled for it.
Yeah,
it's not sustainable.
Bit biased, but Göttingen. Oh, Philip, the arena in Göttingen is amazing. It's got all the old metal bars across it and everything like that. I agree with you. As a venue, it's amazing. Just an absolute pig to get to from the UK. But yeah, once you're there, amazing. Dusseldorf, Dusseldorf was good. Literally just get off the aeroplane and walk to the venue. I would like, perhaps as well, one more PDC night at the tavern as well, under that low ceiling.
What event?
We'll just make one up. We'll take a Premier League night there for a one-off night.
Just add one to the calendar. It's fine.
We'll get rid of Nottingham and we'll go to the tavern for one night in the Premier League.
Yeah, why not? You up for that, Dom?
Media room behind the stage, why not?
But yeah, no. For me, the Reebok tavern with the horse. Could you imagine health and safety trying to get that horse in now?
They tried it. They wanted it. They wanted it for the seniors.
Could you imagine in this day and age the racehorse boots someone?
My friends were there that night. Not a chance. They'd have done something stupid.
Stupid.
Helen Chamberlain, of all the people at every seniors event so far, the only person who's got any abuse was my friend Helen Chamberlain. Called him a knobhead. It had to be it.
Look, absolute rocking show tonight, everyone. Thoroughly enjoyed that one. It was good, boys.
Always love talking about the World Series. Always, down with Dom.
Not controversial at all.
Live League returns tomorrow morning. Group A, second day. We've got some interviews dropping this week as well, and stuff from the World Series is on our YouTube channel, so make sure you check that out as well. So plenty going on. Hopefully, just waiting for it to be okay when we can say it, but some great news for the Live League coming out in the next couple of weeks. So keep your eyes peeled for that. But I've been Phill Bars, Jack Garwood, Lee Boyce. Thank you very much as always. We have been Online Darts. We are signing out, and we'll see you next week, 8 p.m. for the return of the Live Lounge.
This is just the beginning.